Ryan Gill. What a way to get started on this wonderful, rainy, peaceful morning. Thank you so much for being here, and we want to welcome you to our spiritual community, living as the authentic presence of divine love. So, Ryan, what song do you have for us?
I think we should sing.
All
right, let's all stand up and sing it. I'm going to sing. I'm going to sing
about the love in my heart. I'm going to sing about the love in my heart. I'm going to sing about the love in my heart. I'm going to sing about love. Give God the glory. Oh yeah. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and pray, connected to the Holy Spirit every day. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and shout, give God the glory.
I'm going to sing
About the joy in my heart. I'm gonna sing about the joy in my heart. I'm gonna sing about the joy in my heart. I'm gonna sing about joy. Give God the glory. Oh yeah. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and pray, connected to the Holy Spirit every day. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and shout, give God the glory. I'm gonna sing
because
I'm free at last. I'm gonna sing because I'm free at last. I'm gonna sing because I'm free at last. I'm gonna sing because I'm free at last. Oh yeah. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and pray, connected to the Holy Spirit every day. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and shout, and give God the glory. Give God the glory. And give God
the glory.
oh yeah.
Woo-hoo! Whoa,
Yeah.
that was fun. I like it. I like it. I like it. Oh, wrong one. I got 3 here this morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, Valerie. Hi, Dave. Just busted.
Just to bring you up to speed,
Just
we're
to
going to
bring you up
walk
to
and
speed.
talk and
That's
sing
right.
and pray and
Yeah,
give God the
right.
glory.
Okay, there's some announcements this morning. Hold on a second. No, I'm still in denial about these things. I will. Okay. Oh, that's so much better than Robert's. A special meeting of the membership has been requested and scheduled for September the 26th at 2 p.m. I believe that's next Sunday, correct? Yes. You can attend in person at the Comfort Suites, Nashville Airport, 2521 Elm Hill Pike, Nashville, or via Zoom. So check your email for any special notice about that. There will also be a Zoom-only roundtable discussion on October the 5th at 6 p.m. As a follow-up to the recent town hall meeting that we had, this is to discuss what our beliefs and our values are, who we are, and what we stand for. Wow. Again, please check your email for the link for the Zoom information. The prayer chaplains are always available for your prayers. If you have a prayer concern that you would like the chaplains to be made aware of, you can email the prayer request to uofmcprayerrequests@gmail.com. There is also a prayer box in the back of the room if you're here in the room present. If you want to drop off a little prayer request or concern in that box, any and all prayer requests are welcome. Well, let's move on. Thank you, Jill. Our vision, our mission, and our purpose. Let's say this together. Our vision statement. To remember the universal presence alive in each of us. Our mission. We create experiences for expanding consciousness and awakening infinite possibilities. And then our purpose, we create a sacred space for authentic transformation. It is time for our affirmation and our sacred reading this morning. So, affirmation, I will...
You want to sing first?
Oh, are we singing first?
Sing first and then do that?
Oh, I have a new task this morning.
Okay. Otherwise,
So-
we'll be doing two in a row, but that's okay.
No. Let's sing.
Yes. Let's prepare for that.
Yeah,
How's
let's
that?
prepare for that.
All right, let's do our mantra. Get ready, my soul. And I'll let you stay seated because it's a rainy day, and I want you to kind of go within while we sing this. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in. Get ready, my soul. I'm diving in to the deepest kind of love, to the sweetest kind of life. Get ready, get ready,
affirmation in our sacred reading this morning. Let's say the affirmation together. I'll say it first once, and then we'll say it together. I am willing to let go of everything that keeps me from the peace of God. Together. I am willing to let go of everything that keeps me from the peace of God. You have offered yourself to the will of the divine. You have asked to be of service to the greater good. There is something you want to contribute to the healing of the world. Your offering has been accepted. Know this and be at peace. You are completely received and accepted by the divine, just as you are. There is nothing to change. There is only more and more authenticity within you waiting to be uncovered. Every time you release an attachment or shed a layer of ego or forgive a person or situation, the act of the releasing or forgiving becomes an offering. It is a sacrifice on the altar. The letting go becomes its own kind of prayer. Every act of letting go is saying to Holy Spirit, I want there to be nothing that comes between me and you. I am willing to let go of everything that keeps me from the peace of God.
Thank you, Sherry. And let's just stay in that beautiful song and those words just kind of have the ability and the power to bring us into a meditative space even before we ourselves start. We are invited in. And so together we take a few moments now to close our eyes or stare at a spot on the floor, whatever feels most comfortable. To begin to focus on the breathing in and the breathing out. That is the Holy Spirit moving in and through you. Going deep into places our physical eyes have never seen. Living in a part of our spirit and our soul and our body that we have never touched, but that we can know. And we know this through the willingness to let go of anything that keeps us from the peace of God. So for a moment together now as sacred family, we sit in the silence together with nothing but the peace of God in the silence, in the silence. When there is nothing here but the peace of God, I don't even have to try to connect with you. We are one. We sit in the sacred peace and grace that is the knowingness of oneness. We share that with each other as sacred family. and we are left with nothing but hallelujah. Hallelujah. When I was a kid, I used to worry that I was broken because I didn't cry at appropriate times. At my grandmother's funeral, I didn't cry. Next week, the week after that, when I was watching Little House on the Prairie and Laura got lost and her daddy was looking for her, sobbed like a baby. Well, Spirit has fixed that. Or menopause, one or the other.
Did you just say that?
I did. I just said it. And, you know, Spirit's in the menopause, so it's all good. So last week we talked a little bit about reframing and that power of reframing those situations and people and events that come up in our lives. And we talked about that, the work of Byron Katie, and we talked about converting that to the big what if question. Just what if? Can we consider at least, just entertain the what if? And I mentioned in that talk that at the heart of reframing is forgiveness. And I would contend, in fact, that forgiveness is a necessary element of reframing. I would also contend that the journey to spiritual awakening begins on Forgiveness Street. Like, you cannot bypass that street. It has to start there. So let's begin by talking about, I think it's on. We forgive technology, let it go. Let's start by talking about that awakening. I mean, that is the point, isn't it? It's in our vision and our mission and our purpose, which every time we read those again and again, those hit me. Those are so powerful. Let's talk about this awakening. It's why we're here. What is it? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What is the difference that it makes? How does it show up? For so many years, I thought that awakening was a thing that I was kind of just always in pursuit of. It was the carrot out there that was always going to be 3 feet in front of the horse's mouth, right? And I thought that when it happened, I would know. I mean, by its very nature. If you're awake, don't you know it? Right? How could I be awake and not know that I'm awake? And I also felt like at those times that claiming to be an awakened being was a little bit braggy. Just a little bit braggy. And do you know what it is if you only know awakening through your ego self? Now that might sound like a conflict, like cognitive dissonance, spiritual cognitive dissonance. Knowing awakening through our ego self, but it is possible to cognitively understand spiritual concepts. We approach them a lot of times first through our mind, right? It is possible to meditate into a place of elevated bliss. And it's still not, I know atheists who do that all the time, and they don't think there's a spiritual element to it at all. It's possible to do that. It's possible to engage in a spiritual type of life completely from the outer, the ego, the personality, the mind. I've known when that's happened in my life. I'll give you the specific example of one time that I was acutely aware that that was happening in my life. I had really, really, really gotten into all things New Age. All things New Thought. I had every stone. I had all the appropriate. I did not have them on a spreadsheet like Benita does. But I had them all, and I had all the right Buddha statues in all the right corners of my home, and I had all the right yin-yang symbols, and I had all the right necklaces and all the right jewelry and all the right stuff. And then I sat there listening to Mooji do a satsang, and he said, let it all go. Let your meditation go. That's not it. Let it all go. Let those stones and crystals, just let them go. And inside I thought, you're going to take my crystals out of my cold, dead hands. But what he was teaching was, that's not the enlightenment. Those are fine. All tools and rituals and whatever it is that we have to remind ourselves, every one of those is pointing us to who we really are, if that's the meaning we've given it. That's what my Buddha statues do. That's why I have one in my office at work, and I have one at home because it reminds me, that's who you are. Don't forget that. But my attachment to it, if that Buddha statue fell off my desk and broke and got swept up by the custodians and thrown away, guess what? I still am. I still am. We can read about the awakening of someone else. Just recently, I have remembered and reread this classic, Be Here Now by Ram Dass. If you've never sat and soaked in this, do yourself a blessed favor and do. And the first 30 pages or so, the white stuff right here, is his story of his awakening. He was a psychiatrist, a psychologist, I believe. He was a very heady, taught at Harvard, right? And then he went through this spiritual awakening. And we can know through our egoic mind, we can look at that and say, I'll have what he's having. I want that. We can know enough through our egoic mind to know that that's what we want, that that's our goal. And while we're still in that place, any claim to being an awakened being can sound a little braggy. I've heard it out of my own mouth. I've heard myself claiming to understand something that I had never truly experienced. I didn't know it in that intimate way, but only in the way of my ego and my mind. I could think my way through enlightenment. And when I'm in that space, anything I say about it comes out like I'm trying to prove something, and that tone in and of itself tells you that I'm not enlightened. If the tone behind me claiming any kind of awakening or knowing sounds like I'm trying to prove something. So when we fully awaken, when we feel it, when we experience it, when we know it, when we go there, when we awaken to the truth that we are nothing but the presence of divine love, then declaring our awakened state is simultaneously two things. First, it is an act of pure worship. The Bhagavad Gita says that if you want to be truly free, perform all acts as worship. And I would take that one step further and say that when you are truly free, you live in a state of worship and grace. And it begins, all acts just become worship without even trying, right? When we're in that space. So when we're truly free, every act is an act of worship, and simultaneously letting people know is completely unnecessary. It is just completely unnecessary. In fact, in an awakened self and beingness, I claim nothing. I know nothing. Right? I simply am. And being in the space where I feel that and know that, there's no words in that space anyway. There are no words to describe that. I also, in years past, believed that awakening was a one-shot deal, right? One-shot deal. It's like the vaccine that needs no booster, right? I was going to go into meditation. I just knew it. I knew I would know it when it happened, and I knew that this was what was going to happen. I would just go into meditation. I would be split wide open, and this amazing divine white light would come down from the heavens right into the top of my head, into the core of my very being, and I would be forever changed. I would have no more ego. I would never again struggle with pride or anger or feeling a little bit down. None of that. I would be Mooji. I would be the Dalai Lama. I would be, oh, can you hear ego creeping in right there already? Mm-hmm. Now, here's the paradox. Oh, I was forever changed. I remember the first time it happened in a way that I could not deny, in a way that had no words. I was sitting in my apartment, alone, meditating. I used to go home every Sunday after church. I would go home, and Sunday was my holy day. And I would go home and I would eat something. I'd spend the rest of the day alone, and I would do a 2-hour meditation, and I would have nothing unsacred could be allowed in that space. And I remember sitting there meditating one day and listening to the words of someone who was doing a guided meditation. I'm not even sure who it was. And all of a sudden, I knew not only myself as the observer, but I knew myself as the stuff that was behind that. What stands behind even the I am, right? As that. And in that instant, inside the movie screen in my mind, I had this image of a white, translucent, glowing Buddha in the core of me spinning. And I remembered a feeling of total freedom. You know those stories about those monks who can lift off the ground and stuff? I kind of had to open my eyes to make sure that it felt that elevated and that free and I remember thinking, don't lose this. Now, when you start to think that, you start to lose it, right? That's the thing. I was sitting there thinking, just hold on to this, just hold on to this, just hold. And in that moment of just hold on to this, here's what really happened. Because when you see the spinning Buddha, just when you think there's a level, oh, there's another level. Just when you think the observer is it, there's a space behind the observer. And in that moment, that Buddha split into a billion tiny Buddhas, and they went into every cell of my body, and I could feel it, and I could see it, and I was it. And I mean, I will have what she's having, right? The vibration that happened there. But here's the paradox. In that moment, I began to understand that the core of my being was nothing but the heart of God. I knew that. I was forever changed, and it was no one-shot deal. It didn't happen that way. After that, the challenges came even stronger. I mentioned last week that Mooji talked about the ego storm that comes along after you first touch the divine what is that is in the core of you. And then here comes the ego storm, because the ego is about survival. And it does not want to die. And it's going to come after you hard and furious and heavy. And it's going to bring every argument you have thought of and not thought of to you. A few months ago, I think it was back in May, according to my notes, we talked about Adyashanti in the book Resurrecting Jesus. I don't know if any of y'all remember that talk or not, but it's a fantastic book which I highly recommend. I love to read Buddhist writing about Jesus. It's some of the best Christian literature I know of. And so Adyashanti in Resurrecting Jesus gave us the map to awakening, and I spoke about this map to awakening, and he has these 7, and he uses the life of Jesus to carry us through this map of awakening. He has these 7 steps of living as an awakened being, and I pointed out back then, notice that awakening is step 2, not step 7. It's step 2. We're just at the beginning when we feel that. And look what comes right after it. Trials and tribulations. Jesus knew who he had come here to be, and then he went out in the desert, wrestled with the devil for 40 days and 40 nights. Right? It's just the beginning. Now that you know your iron, you get taken to the forge. It reminds me of a song that we sang in the choir I was in high school. I didn't know until years later it was actually, the words were from a poem by Carl Sandburg. And the words went like this: "Lay me on an anvil, O God, beat me and hammer me into a steel spike." Now, as a 16, 17-year-old high school student, I thought, ooh, yuck. But it's interesting how many times over my life those words have come back to me and I have understood. I have understood where they come from. It doesn't really matter how many metaphors you come up with for the spiritual journey, whichever one works with you, right? If it works with somebody. So let's talk about that anvil. Let's talk about the ego storm. Let's talk about the trials and the tribulations. We are awakened. We've been there. We've felt it. We have felt our spirit open up to the awareness that the light we thought was going to come down from heaven and down into our head was really just uncovered and shot up from the center of us and joined with all of the light in the universe. The connection of oneness that we suddenly knew. We didn't know it. We knew it. We felt it. We lived it. We've been there. And then crap happens. Conflict happens. Misunderstanding happens. And maybe at that moment, if you're like me, you want to say to the world, listen, do not pee in my Cheerios. I am awakened. Do not mess with my awakening. I'm going to be holy. Y'all do what you want to do. I mean, no wonder the gurus go up and live in caves, right? That's how they stay enlightened. It is in that storm where forgiveness is key. It is in that storm where forgiveness becomes so important. Now, we can battle against that storm or we can walk on water. Remember, Jesus reframed the storm. And that ego storm that we live through can be reframed as well. We can step into forgiveness. I went old school. I went to Wikipedia. If you go to Wikipedia and you look up forgiveness, this is the very first sentence that you're going to see. All right? Forgiveness, in a psychological sense, is the intentional and voluntary process by which one who may initially feel victimized undergoes a change in feelings and attitudes regarding a given offense and overcomes negative emotions such as resentment and vengeance, however justified it may be. I love how the definition clings to its self-righteousness, doesn't it? I'm justified, but I'm going to forgive anyway, right? So I'm going to pull out my English professor card, and we're going to do a little sentence diagramming here for just a second. And I always tell my students to look for the verb. Where's the verb? That's the hinge that the whole sentence is turning on. Let's look for that verb. What's happening here? Now, technically, in this sentence, it's is. All right? Forgiveness is. So we're going to go beyond that into some of the clauses and phrases and look at that one who may initially feel victimized, and what is the action that that person is going through. They undergo a change and overcome negative emotions. Undergo a change. I, the person who feels slighted, I undergo a change. And I overcome negative emotions. I undergo and overcome. I just that right there needs to be a song. Ryan, please write that. I undergo and overcome. Right? I undergo and overcome. Last week, I used a quote from Lewis B. Smedes that says, "To forgive is to set a prisoner free and to discover that the prisoner was you." We're here for freedom. We're here for freedom. And this forgiveness is a personal act, a private act even. It's about me undergoing a change. It's about me overcoming negative emotions. It's about me setting myself free. Think about the power of that. I'm setting myself free. Whatever holds you back from pure freedom, which is the ultimate goal of awakening, whatever holds you back is a candidate for forgiveness. This past week, I was in my office, and there was a knock on the door, and this guy walked in, and at first, I didn't recognize him. And then I remembered. It took me a second. About 4 years ago, he had worked with us, and he was not a pleasant person. He was very aggressive and assertive, and he was very egotistical. He thought he should have special treatment, all kinds. I mean, he just had lots of, he came with lots of energy. And I was the department chair at that time, and that energy was not meshing well with mine. And because he was a part-time member of our faculty, not tenured full-time instructor, the way that you deal with that when you're a department chair is you just don't have any classes for that person anymore. Because adjuncts just live on, do you have any classes for me this semester? And I had given him a lot of chances. We had several semesters. I'm like, we're going to have to, no, I'd have a talk with him. This behavior's got to change. Okay, yeah, okay. I'd get student evaluations back. This behavior's got to change. Okay, yeah. And finally, it was done. It was just done. And I found out that he also got fired from his full-time day job. And I did not know, but apparently he then went into rehab, and then his son died. And then he and his wife had to move out of their family home because they couldn't I mean, we're talking a bunch of stuff. And this man walked into my office this past week, and I hardly recognized him. He looked different. He looked kinder. He looked humbled. He looked gentle. And he came in and he sat down and he said, I needed to come talk to you. And I needed to tell you that I am sorry. I'm coming to make amends for my behavior in the past and asking for your forgiveness. Now, the truth is, he didn't really need my forgiveness because I didn't have it anymore to give. I'd already forgiven him. I had let go. What he needed was his own forgiveness. And he needed to engage in the ritual of making amends to help give that to himself. And I was happy to participate in that ritual with him. And I told him, we're done. You're free. You're forgiven. We're good. We're golden. Then he asked if I had any classes available next semester. And I told him I'm no longer the department chair. Thank God. I can forgive you. So the question is, at any given moment, do I feel free at this moment? Is there anyone or anything I can identify that appears to be restricting my freedom? Is there someone who doesn't understand me? Is there a situation in my life that does not feel clear? What is it that is allowed to live in your brain like a little jumping bean? Like a little firefly in a jar that won't go away, that just keeps doing this? What have you resisted? That's always mine. What have you resisted? What system has failed you? What religion has failed you? What church has failed you? What name is mentioned that causes me to raise my eyebrows with an entire past story about that person the moment that their name comes into our space? A past that no longer exists. What do I cling to while claiming that it won't let me go? What have I not released? Where have I not let go? If you want to be truly free, if you want to be truly awake, if you want to be vibrating with a billion Buddhas, I have the answer. Forgive everything. If you want to be truly free, forgive everything. I actually originally saw this as a saying attributed to the Buddha. By the way, know that most of the stuff attributed to the Buddha did not say. But a lot of times it's Buddha-like, and that's okay. It said, if you want to understand everything, forgive everything. To understand everything, forgive everything. But I altered that just a bit to say, if you want to be truly free and truly awake, forgive everything. Let it go. Every unforgiven layer is a layer covering our divine self. Every unforgiven layer is a tarp between me and spirit. Every unforgiven layer is a movable wall that I have placed up. I've moved myself into my own little cubicle, spirit. You stay over there because I've got this wall I cannot forgive. And we know the way to Buddhahood is through non-attachment. I'm not attached to that. I can let it go. The more we live in that place, the more we shed those suits of armor, those extra layers, the closer together our moments of awareness become until they become the default and the forgetting becomes the outlier. That's what we want, right? It's not a one-off deal, but what we can achieve is that those moments of remembering are closer and closer and closer together until we can hardly see the space in between them, the forgetting. So I have a few steps for forgiveness for you this morning. And maybe these will help if there's anything that you want to let go of. First step is to scan your life, scan your body, scan your heart for anything that does not feel free. Sometimes we don't automatically know what needs to be forgiven, but we know what doesn't feel free, right? Every now and then that's obvious. We can immediately think of something that feels unfree. We have a situation or there's a problem in our family or work that just plain old sucks. And we know it, and it feels icky. Other times, it's not so obvious. Sometimes we just feel stuck, and we don't know why. We go see Frank, and he tells us why. Sometimes we're just stuck, and we go see a therapist because we're not sure how to identify what has us stuck, right? Sometimes we go see someone for some body work. I've been on a massage table many times where all of a sudden they hit some muscle and I started crying. Something was held in my body and I started laughing. I've laughed twice on a massage table for no reason, and it was the best laughter ever. We do whatever we have to, right? Some of the most deceptive times are when something obvious is up and we think that's it. But it's something so much deeper. Something coming from such a deeper place. So we do whatever we can to try to feel what doesn't feel free in this moment. We meditate on it. We honor it. We give it some room. Right? We may just start by saying, I have no idea why, but at the moment I don't feel completely free. I got to tell you, if I could help anyone else on the planet understand the power of saying words like that out loud, my work here is done. Because those moments when I can just stand and say, I don't know what's going on, Spirit, you're going to have to show me. She does. Every time, right? If you speak that out loud and you just keep talking, you'll talk yourself into discovering what it is that's bothering you. So scan yourself and find out what it is. And then step 2, establish the intention to be free of it. And sometimes that intention might have to go through stages. That's okay. Sometimes we go, I am free, I am unlimited, and I'm affirming that, but I don't feel it right now, and I can't leap to that place. And so what about establishing some intentions that feel good for you right now? What if you just started with, regardless of how I feel about this situation right now, it is my intention to let it go and be free. And then as that begins to shift, you might go into, I feel justified in my feelings, and I can't imagine letting this go, but it is my intention to be free. And eventually, we get to the place of, I set the intention today to completely release this situation and to be free, completely free. That's power right there. Step 3, create a ritual to symbolize the release. By the way, sorry, Muji, this is my forgiveness stone. And I wanted it here with me as I talked about this today. I love ritual. There's power in ritual. There's power. The ritual is a symbol, right? And the symbols are everywhere. I remember when I first went to Unity, Patricia Ryder would talk about this she talked about a God can, right? You get a can and you put a big label on it that just says God, right? Or the God can. And then anything that's bought, you put a little slit in the top of it so you can put things in there, like a little coin jar or something like that. And then when something's bothering you, something's come up, you can't release it, you can't fix it, you can't figure it out, you write it on a piece of paper and you say, I can't solve this, but God can. And I'm going to put it in there and let it go. Right? It just hit me. I can't solve this. That's right. Swear right next to the swear jar. That's right. I can't solve this, but God can. Let me tell you another ritual. And by the way, I always said I give rituals as maybe an example, but rituals to me are very, very personal. And it has to be yours. You have to figure out what it is you want this to be. Nikki bought me this box last week. It's beautiful. I'm going to try to stick this like this and do this. But when you open this box, there's another box in there. And so I have another box. And then, I don't think that's going to bother anything there, Ryan. When you open this box, there's another box right in there. And so, what's in the middle of this box? I keep my little mini selenite wand. And this has become a part of my ritual to say that this is who I truly am. When I take all of these layers off, when I remove the ego, when I take all of this out, and when I can meditate, anytime something feels wonky, I can go meditate on this right here and I go, oh, I know who I am. So last year, you might have remembered I talked a little bit about my little sister. And we were having a conflict, a misunderstanding. We're still kind of there. We don't see eye to eye. We don't. But I have discovered recently that I can take this. She used to have green hair. She doesn't anymore. It wasn't because she swam a lot. She just purposely had green hair, all right? So I took my little malachite and I said, this is Donna. This is my sister. I'm going to put that in there and I'm going to close it up. And I'm going to put it in the second box and I'm going to close it up. And I'm going to put it in the third box and I'm going to close it up. And then I'm going to sit and meditate on Donna and me as oneness. And whatever disagreement we have does not matter in the space of oneness. As much as in our physical world the vaccine matters, in the place of oneness it doesn't. In the place of oneness, none of this matters. And I go to that place with her, and with each layer of this, I might start from the beginning, and I might say, I remember that you and I are one. I remember that we love each other. And I get to that second box, and I say, I love you and I forgive you for every misunderstanding and everything that felt painful. And then I get to the third box and I say, I love you and I forgive me that I couldn't see who you were. And I'm telling you, you open that last box and you open yourself. And that ritual alone, that ritual alone can do it. Build into those rituals some space for you to sit in the forgiveness. Not just sit with the unforgiven, but to sit with the forgiveness. And then when it's time, when you're ready, let it go. And if you engage in that ritual, the process enough times, the letting go, which in the beginning feels like it's going to feel like ripping your arm off. It's going to feel like it's going to be painful. By the time you've moved through this, all these stages, it's like a puff of air. It's like a feather floating away. That is so small now. I can let that go, right? It might include some ritual of making amends or engaging in reconciliation, but that's not what we're talking about. After the internal work, the letting go happens in the most gentle of ways. I know who I am. I know who you are. I know what it means to be fully awakened to my true nature, and I know what your true nature is, and I want to live in that place. That's where I want to live every moment of my life. And if I find out I'm not, then I know, if I find out that I am not free in any moment, I know there's something I need to let go of. I know there's something that I need to forgive. Last week in my seminary class, John Mundy, who's the A Course in Miracles guru in our class, wonderful human being. I get the pleasure of speaking with him on the phone every month, one-on-one. And he said something in that class last week that rang through me like a bell. You know when you're open and empty in spirit, inspiration hits you like a bell clanging. And it has resonated in my spirit all week long. It has been the reminder that I bring up every time I start forgetting. And this is what he said: never let anything take the peace of God away from you. Never let anything, my friends, take the peace of God away from you. Namaste.
Amen. You know, you're talking about on the first step, the forgiveness there, that some people go get a massage, just find different ways of getting rid and making a path towards forgiveness. Here's what I do. I'm going to sing because I'm free at last. I'm going to sing because I'm free at last. I'm going to sing because I'm free at last. I'm going to sing because I'm free at last. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and pray, connect to the Holy Spirit every day. I'm gonna walk and talk and sing and shout, give God the glory, and give God the glory, and give God the glory. I couldn't get to the next step because it just kept singing in my mind. I'm like, oh, I just got to sing that. I got to sing it. Okay, well, it's time for our offertory affirmation. We have our bucket at the back. You can give online if you'd like. There's all kinds of ways to give. Give of your time, talents, energy, service, and give us lots of prayers. So let's say our offertory affirmation together. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And we do that in a world of infinite abundance.
Say the prayer of protection together. The light of God surrounds us.
The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us.
The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is,
and all is well. Stand together and sing.
All is well,
Thank you all for coming.